Yes. So let's talk a little bit about Toy Tale. Um, Again, Toy Tale is going to exercise everything we've done so far. It's going to be the closest thing that we have to our code challenge. So I think it's going to be a great practice. If you are good with Toy Tale, you should be good all around. I know some folks have taken a run at it already. So I think, again, what I'd like to do is just kind of start off with it and aggressively ask questions. Just stop me at any time and ask anything about any part of it, because everything here is going to be stuff you need to know. Before we jump into it, actually, is there any part of it that you'd like me to focus on, or any questions you have about it up front? Yeah, Megan.
Once we get to the, let's see, the sorry, posting that info that the user's like submitting,
Mhm.
I would love to just really focus on that when we get there, because yeah, I can't get that info to go. So
You could definitely make that happen.
cool, thank you.
Cameras on the stuff. Kimberly, yeah.
The second dot then.
The second dot then.
The second dot then is
in
is
general.
well, in general, yeah. Anne and I just figured out that I didn't need a second dot then in one of my functions because the function's written out in it. There's just no second dot then. It's just an if statement.
Huh.
And it's working.
Which one are you looking at for that one?
It's when I add a new toy,
Mhm.
First she pointed out you have your post function outside of your function, pull it inside. So kudos to Anne for pointing that out. Thank you very much. So I have fetch toy collection URL method post headers body, and then I have my .then res to res JSON, and then after that I just start in with const card equals document create element div. There's no second then. I'm curious as to how that it's possible that that's working.
I'm also very curious about how that's working. Cool. We'll talk to that when we get to that point. And maybe we'll take a look at it specifically after we kind of do the first run through. Cool.
Great. Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that. Awesome. Anything else before we jump in?
Just finding that like button and incrementing it. That took a lot of Googling.
So. I have a question up front, I guess, about how did you save out your data and render all your data out, or did you kind of creep through the DOM and kind of like look for parent, sibling, like, and do that way? Yeah, that second way is way harder. So
yeah, and I'm realizing that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and very brittle because if you're working with someone else, they may change the way the HTML looks. And so if like, oh, I'm going to move the like button from here to a different element right there, then all your code's going to break. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Cool. I think we got stuff to go on. Let us take a look at what we are even talking about here. Cool. So what we are even talking about here is hiding the meeting controls. Great. So we are talking about Toy Tale. Toy Tale, we are going to be using fetch to get stuff. We're going to put it to the DOM. We're going to handle buttons. We're going to do all the things. So, and it looks like this. Let me go ahead and pop open all of our server stuff. So first off, I'm going to pop open a link server to see our HTML. And there's that. And let me open our JSON server. I bet there's something in package JSON that runs everything, right? Maybe not. Nope, I guess not. There should be. Let me open up the JSON server. And we are looking at the DB JSON. Great. And making sure this is running. Let me hit the URL. Great. With serving up data just how we like. Cool. Let's take a survey of what we got here. We got our index HTML. It's got some stuff here. It's got our header. It's got an add toy form, which is up here. Great. This is really confusing always to me because that makes me think I'm going to add a new toy right there, but that's all right. Cool. We've got that toy form that's hidden, and then we have a toy collection there. Great. I'm going to go ahead and move our JavaScript up to the head and put a defer on it because this is 2023, I believe, and we can do that. Fantastic. And then the last thing I'm going to do is pop open our index.js, which is tucked away in the source directory. I'm just going to command click it to open it up. Oh, we got a DOM content loaded here. I'm going to get rid of that because we don't need it because we got to defer because again, 2023. Cool. And this is the bit that kind of hides and shows the add toy form here. Here it is. There it is. There it is. Where'd our toy tail go? Oh no, is it running on a different port? It's running on a different port. Let me do this. Start up our JSON server first. Start up our JSON server first. Add a new toy. Great, that works still. Fantastic. We are ready to go. Cool. I'm not going to mess with any of this yet, except for maybe moving this down so we have some space to work. So what are our tasks? We've started up the server. We're going to be fetching the toys, which means we're going to be making a GET request to our API, and we're going to take the data that we get back from that request. We're going to be going through each thing in that, and we're going to be rendering out divs that are cards. We're going to need to add the toy info to the cards for that. Those will all show up there. We're going to need to hook up this form that lets us add a new toy. It's going to be a post there, and we're going to do some likes on the toy. Three main tasks. Sounds easy, probably isn't. So let's take a look at what we got. So our first task is to grab the toys and show them on the page. We are going to look at this here, toy collection. Let me just collapse this for now. We're going to look at this toy collection, and I'm going to up top. We're probably going to have a bunch of a bunch of things. So let's get that. And look, that's unnecessary. We are going to grab the toy collection. Yeah, I'm just going to call it that for now. Let's get that. Fantastic. So we have that. Let me just hit my, let me just make a console log just to make sure that our JavaScript file is hooked up. I'm just going to log out the toy collection for now. And that, great. So our JavaScript file is hooked up correctly. We are getting the toy collection, and now we can start doing some work. So our API is hooked up here at localhost 3000 toys. It returns a list of objects. Our objects have IDs, names, images, and likes. So I'm gonna say const toy API equals that. And let's go ahead. And so when the page loads, we're just gonna load up those toys. So we can just do our fetch. We're gonna hit our toy API. That's doing our get by default. We're gonna do our little JSON dance here. So that's fetch is giving us a promise. We're telling the promise when you come back, run this function here that turns the response into JSON. This also returns a promise, so we're gonna dot then off of that. And we're saying, cool, when you have changed all of our response into JSON, then do this thing. I'm just going to console log right now. So it's going to take the data we got back and it's going to pass it into console log. And ideally, we should have some toys. Great, there's our data. Hopefully that is familiar to folks. If not, I'm happy to talk about it in detail. Cool, so instead of console logging, we want to render our toys to the page. So I'm going to say, make a function, render toys. And yeah, take the toys there. So I'm going to say fetch to the API, turn it into JSON, and then render the toys. It's going to take the response from the server, pass it into render toys. And just for kicks, I'm going to console log it. What I get in this function should be the same thing. It is fantastic. Cool. So we have our toy collection. Just because I know we're going to have to do it later on, I'm going to clear it out before I add anything to it. So I just set the inner HTML to nothing. And then I'm going to render each toy to the page. And I need to iterate over the toys that I got. I'm going to say for each toy that I got, take that toy and render the toy. Just like that. Cool, which means I need to write a render toy function. And each toy is going to be that data that we get back for each one. So I should, instead of getting an array, I should get an error. Render toy is not defined. Render toy, capital T. Boom, cool. So now I'm for eaching through that list. So for each one of those toys, I'm going to render it. And right now I'm just rendering it to the console by console logging it. So cool. We've got our fetch. We're doing a thing to each of the things that we get back. And that satisfies this part here. Or the top part anyway. We're going to need to make a div class card and add the info to it next. Azani, yeah. What questions do we have?
Yep. Quick question, just as a reminder. Can you remind me on line 15? I mean, sorry, line 13. Why we have to do the inner HTML equals empty?
We don't have to do it right now, but if we are going to re-render the list at some point, we don't want it to just render on. We don't want to just keep adding to it. So just to make sure. And just in case like there's garbage there already. So if there's already like toys go here and we don't have that, that's going to, oh, we've got our placeholder here. So we want to make sure to clear out anything that's in there that goes away.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
Oh, great. Thanks, Echo. Cool. Zen, yeah.
Sorry, so I just have a little bit of a question. Why are you doing a function that says render toys and then another function below that says render toys? Like, why are we doing two?
Yeah, just to make it easier to think about. I could just say, do all my stuff in here. I could write my function, toy, do stuff, whatever in here. It's just easier to think about for me. And it's kind of that single responsibility thing. So I'm saying here, when I get my data back, render that data, right? And so this is that renders that data. I could, just write all the code to render each one in here. But to me, that feels like, and I've spoiled myself for later on. In case I need to add just one toy, I have a function to add just one toy. So I've broken that out to a separate piece of functionality. So it's just to kind of make each function just do one thing. Render toys renders all the toys to the page. Render toy renders a toy to the page. And it just makes the function smaller and nicer to read, kind of easier to
I see.
Yeah, I could just as easily put this all up here, but I like breaking it out just because a bunch of little functions for my brain is easier to think about than like one big function that does everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is especially helpful if there are multiple people working on the code at once, so that each little piece is broken down and people can work on those little pieces individually. Yeah, but if you want to write all on one page, great, go go nuts. You can totally do that.
Like you said, if it works.
It works. Number one. Cool. Other questions about this startup stuff? All right. Cool. So let's fill out that render toy part. So we are going to make a div for each one and add it to the toy collection. We've grabbed the toy collection up here, so we are good to go, I think. I'm gonna create a new div here with document create div. I'm going to assign that to a constant. Toy div, toy card, we'll call it. Great. I'm going to add a class to it. I need to add the class card to it. So toy card, class list, add card. And then I'm going to add it to our toy collection. Awesome. That should just give me a bunch of blank cards, hopefully. Fantastic. That's what I wanted. Cool. Are we all good with adding a blank card to the page? Kimberly, yeah.
Difference between append and append child in this case?
Very, very, very slight. Append will append both HTML nodes and text nodes. So if I want to add text, I can. The more important difference is that it is 5 fewer characters to type.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it just makes more sense to my English brain. It's like, oh, I'm appending this thing. But yeah, append child totally works too. 100%.
So then it doesn't matter which one we use.
It does not matter at this point now.
Okay.
There are very few cases in which it'll matter, and at that point you'll hopefully be familiar with the difference. But yeah, either one totally works for putting stuff on the putting HTML elements onto another HTML element. Anything else? Great. Let's go ahead then and use our data and fill stuff out. So it's got an H2, it's got an image, it's got a P tag, it's got a button, and it should look like this. Yeah, Megan.
So sorry, I
No
didn't
problem.
realize. So like just comparing like what with you did with what I did. My cards are being added to the browser, okay, but they're all lined below each other. And is there a reason like why that would be as opposed to like next to each other?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
because of the CSS probably. So let's look at the cards here. So the card will apply to anything that if we put a card class on something, doesn't care what it is, it's going to do all this stuff to them. And it's set up right now to make divs look good. Are you making them LIs maybe?
I was initially, and then I changed it to create element div, and it's still doing that.
Yeah, it'll be a CSS thing. So as long as it looks exactly like this, as long as the divs come out looking like this, like div class equals card, close div, that in the toy collection and with nothing else around them, they're set up in this. You should see this grid next to it if you sorry, if you inspect it, because it's a CSS thing. The toy collection. Where's our grid? No, is it a? How did they do it? Did they do a fleck out?
It's under card,
There we
inline
go.
grid card.
Yeah, so card inline grid basically means that it's set up in a grid, but it's inline so that if we make this bigger or smaller, it'll flow nicely. So that should, well, if I make it smaller anyway. Come on, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like mine it has the drop down for toy collection and then another drop down for div. And then under that div, there's all my cards. So I don't know. We can, I don't
Yeah,
want to take up time. We can maybe troubleshoot it later.
just make sure the HTML looks like this, and you'll be good. Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
CSS can be a little picky nightmare, so good luck, I guess. Awesome. Other questions about this part? All right. So we have a bunch of things to add to the card. And so we can create the element, we can add stuff to it, we can set the class, we can set the content, we can append it to stuff. Instead of doing all that, I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to toy card. I'm going to set the inner HTML to whatever it needs to be here. So indents and stuff, so it looks nice. Great, cool. So we don't need to put the card part in there because that's in the div. So this is the content of each card. It's backticks, so we can do multi-line, but more importantly, we can do templating in here. So right now we're just going to have a bunch of woodies with broken links. So instead, what we want to do is look at each toy that we're coming in here with and put that information in here using our template literals. So again, looking at our data, each object is going to have a name, an image, and likes. So let's use those here. I'm going to say toy.name. I'm going to say toy.image. Toy avatar is what we want. I need to put our likes in here. Toy. And I think that'll set us up. Let's see what happens. Hey. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Boom, there we go. Cool. So Rex has a broken image. We can no problem. But cool. So yeah, so it's when we do a render toy, we're taking the toy object there, and we are creating our card, and then we're just smacking a bunch of stuff in that card using template literals to inject our data for that object. That will show up all the stuff. I think that satisfies our first thing. Cool. Questions? Or did anyone do it differently? I know at least one person did. Yeah, Kimberly.
I did it differently. I didn't use inner HTML because I heard that you heard what I heard.
Yeah.
Or I told you what I heard.
Yeah. Inner HTML is totally safe to use. Anyone who says that it's dangerous to use is hyperbolic at best.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't believe their lies.
Okay. I'm looking at your code right now and trying to duplicate it so that I can understand it.
Yeah. And literally all I'm doing is saying, here's a bunch of HTML, put that HTML into this HTML. Yo, dog, I heard you like HTML. One more little piece here. Let's add the toy ID. How about that?
Sorry.
Cool. There we go. Yeah. Zen.
Yeah, so for the inner HTML, like I saw one video where she used it too, and it kind of makes sense, but um wh- can you break down how you you went from changing the name? W- I don't think I'm understanding what just happened there.
Can you talk through a little bit what part is confusing?
Yeah, so you grab the code. Okay, so if we go back to the instructions on what it was at, sometimes the instructions, I swear it's not English. Like
I-
I get very confused and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. So we're looking at the, I think if you scroll up. So right there where it's like div class card and then it has like the Woody, like
Mhm.
how did you figure out wait, to change it? Does
Uh,
that make sense?
so this is just like an example of what it looks like. So I just copy pasted that example. And so I knew, Woody was the name of that toy. So I replaced that with the toy name. I knew this, it just says replace that with the toy image URL. So I replaced it there. And I'm just using this template literal syntax to insert that data in there. Is that kind of what you're asking? Or is it something
Yeah,
else?
I think I just take things too literal sometimes, but so why toy dot name? Like
Great question. Because we are calling this, so the function is render toy, and we're
okay,
passing in a toy, and that means we're passing in one of these objects. So toy, for the first one is going to be this object here.
from the API. Or
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Yep. You got it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're making our fetch. We're doing a get, and when we get the data back, that data is getting passed to render toys, and that's
Okay.
all of this. And so then we're taking this whole array, and we're
Mhm,
saying this whole array for each one of those,
mhm.
pass each one to render toy. So we're passing each one of these objects to
Okay.
this function here. And so that gives us access to toy.id, toy.name, toy.image, toy.likes. And again, we're just calling it toy here because that's what it is. We can call it toy data, we can call it rhinoceros, as long as we know what it is.
What it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that function that we're working on where you put the inner HTML, that's what's creating the card and then adding the API list into it in separate form.
Yeah, that's what's creating the card and adding the information for one toy object into it.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
This is the one that's
Thank you.
that to every single one.
Yeah, I think sometimes I just read things and I'm too literal about it. So then I was like, I swear I know what I'm doing, but I don't.
Being literal is good here. Awesome, Holly.
Sorry, I think someone already asked this, but I was typing, so I kind of missed the answer. Why do you need a blank inner HTML on line 13 if you already have the toy card HTML or inner HTML on line 22?
Great. So this is the div here. So this is this whole div. So if I have a bunch of garbage in here before I render stuff out, I don't want that to show up. So I'm looking at the whole div saying remove anything that's in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then for each one's created fresh. And yeah, so if I do let me do this. So I can actually go into the console here, right? And I can say, get that element, set the inner HTML, to whatever. Oh no, it's not a function. Inner HTML equals, that's right. Every time I do that, I'll set the inner HTML to that. Boom, and that blows it all away and puts whatever I want in there. And so
Got
then
it.
now if I add more stuff in there, it's going to be on top of that. And again, I do that just in case there's stuff there, but also because I know I'm going to be adding individual toys there, and I want to make sure. Well, we'll get to that in a minute for sure. Yeah, Azani, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a complete side note, but can you do a reminder on how you make Visual Studio Code save like automatically
Yeah.
when
So
you scroll away?
the preferences, I command comma to get those, but you can also get them from the file menu up here, wherever they are. Preferences. Autosave is what you want. And I set autosave to on focus change.
All right, got it.
Yeah, lifesaver. My computer hot take is that we shouldn't have to manually save anything anymore. Things should just save as we use things. And if we want to save a copy, we should save a copy. I don't think we should ever need to manually save anything anymore. It's 21st century. But we work with what we got, I guess. Yeah, there are programs to do that, Obsidian or whatever. So yeah. someday. Zen, what's up?
Sorry, again, how did you do that
Never say
shortcut
sorry.
where you
Start over, don't say sorry.
okay, not sorry.
Yeah.
How did you do the that shortcut where you kind of clean up the to align the code to make it look better? Because mine is always looking messy.
Yeah. So if you got garbage code like mine, I hit Option Shift F and that cleans everything up. That's on a Mac. I think it is Control Shift F on PC, but I don't have a PC, so I don't know.
It's
okay.
Alt Shift F.
Alt Shift F, great.
Oh, okay. Sorry. One more time for the Mac, because
For the Mac,
I'll try the wrong one again.
It is Option Shift F.
Option Shift F. Got it. I'm writing that.
Yeah, and again, I live and die by that. Because if I've forgotten, if I've forgotten this, it's gonna format it weird, and I'm gonna be like, oh, that's not what I wanted. I'm missing something. Great, cool. That's just like a nice visual reminder to make sure I got everything in there. Cool. These are all great questions. Anything else? Alrighty. Let's move on to the second part where we are adding toy. So we have a toy form. We need to send a post request to our URL with all the data. We're going to send it via fetch like usual. Here's our headers. Great. Thank you for giving those so I can copy paste them. And we're just going to send a body with the information from the form. To make things easier, I'm going to make it so the form shows up every time. I'm just going to set add toy to true. So when the page loads, that form is going to be available. Add toy will true. Oh, I need to turn this off first. Add toy form. Why did I not do that? Thought I could make that easier for myself. Oh well. Add toy. Why is it not doing that? Add toy is true. Weird. That usually works. And now it's not working at all. There we go. Ah, I hate it. Cool. So we're gonna add some stuff to the toy. Here is our HTML again. Our form is here. Add toy form. So we're gonna need to listen to an event on the add toy form. So let's grab it. We call add toy form because that's what it is. Cool. So now we have the toy form to play with. Let's go ahead and add the event listener for it right here. You know, in fact, I don't think we even need to grab it like that. We can just add the event listener like that. So I don't think we're going to use it beyond this. And if we do, we can change it back. I'm going to listen for a submit. And I'm going to say add new toy. That's going to be our handle, or handle. I'm going to say handle. Because who knows what's going to be there. Handle add new toy. So let me find some space to write something here. Let's just add it down. Great. Handle. And the handle stuff I keep putting on event listeners, event handlers, just a convention that I decided to start doing. You may not see it in the world. You don't have to do it yourself. It doesn't require it. It's just the way I like to name event listeners. Cool. That's taking an event because it's an event listener. We are going to need to prevent the default first. And just to make sure, let's log out that target. Come on, man. Why you gotta do that to me? Uncaught type error. Can't read properties of null. Get element by a D. Does it think that's null? Yeah, Megan.
Actually, I think it's a class, but also, why are we adding the event listener to the whole form as opposed to the submit button?
Oh, look at that. How terrible. ID. Because the form is the thing that actually throws the submit event because it needs to submit everything that's inside the form. The button is just a button.
Oh, okay. So for like submit forms, we have to target the actual form, the whole thing. Got it. That's what I was doing wrong. Thank you.
Okay. Selecting by class like a farmer. Oh gosh. Okay, cool. Here we go. Add new toy.
Sorry, Mark, can you explain why what you just changed in the HTML for
Yeah,
us?
yeah. So I did get element by ID for the form, and it was a class before. That's no good. Is it doing it in a toy form? Add toy form with, yeah. So I'm going to not change it. I'm going to add the ID. I'll add the container class here. Because we're using the classes for styling, like we should. Yeah, because in general, classes should be for CSS. IDs should be for hooking into JavaScript, unless you need to like select a whole bunch of stuff that has the same class. But in general, if there's just one thing, select by ID is gonna be your guy. I'm gonna do this is get element by ID. I'm just gonna do that instead of doing a selector with a pound. And this is a stylistic thing. This doesn't affect how it works at all. Unless for some reason I made it not work. 740. I still make it wrong. Add toy form. Add toy form. Add toy form. There we go. Add toy form. Great. Cool. So I've got my form. Is it gonna show up here? I do a reload. Nope. Okay. Still busted. True false. All right. Enough messing around. So here's my form. I've grabbed it. When I hit submit, I should get a console log. Great. And this tells me this is the form that is getting submitted. So in that form, I need to get just the name and the URL, I guess. And we'll tell it to start off with 0 likes. Awesome. So let's take a look at what we're sending. So we're sending this object basically, which means we need to get the name, we need to get the image, and we need to get the likes. And likes are always going to be 0. So let's actually I'm gonna make my headers constant too while we're here. Great. Yeah, so let's in our handle add new toy here. Let's make that object while we're here. So const new toy data, we'll say. This is going to be an object. It's going to look like this. It's going to have a name, an image, and a like. Name, image, and likes are going to be 0. So our name is going to be grabbed from our form. So we need to get our form target. So that's our form. And let's look at what the name of the name is. It is name. Great. Fantastic. Name. And so this is the name input field here, and we're going to need to get the value of that. I put a comma there, it should be a dot, and that should be a comma. Cool, and we're going to do the same thing for the image. Assuming it is still named image. Great. Cool, and let's console log out this data, so we can make sure that we are going to be sending the right thing. Create toy. Great. So this is the data that we're going to post to the server. So let's do that part now. Okay, so we need to do a fetch. We're going to do it to our same API here. But we need to give it some stuff. We need to give it those headers I put over here. We're going to need to give it a method. Let's post. And we're going to need to give it a body. That's our data. And we're going to stringify that data. To our data. Cool. So that's going to do our post to our database. And we can probably see that it shows up if we, there's our data there. Let's add some garbage there, create toy. If nothing explodes over here, great. Let's look at our data, and there's our data there. Cool, so we posted successfully, but we haven't done anything after the post. So let's do our thens. Turn our response into JSON, and then we're going to, what are we going to do? Let's console log what we're getting back. How about that? So when we create a new toy, we're going to add some stuff there. And this is what comes back from the server. ID 10, image, likes, and name. And let's just make sure it's on the server. It is. And we can be pretty sure that it came back from the server because it's got the ID. Notice we don't send an ID over. We almost never want to send an ID over like this. We always want the server to create that for us because we don't know how it's creating the IDs. So here's a question for you. When we post, we're getting an object back that looks very much like one of these objects. If we want to just smack that object on the end of the list like that, what would be an easy way to do it without writing much new code? Yeah, Megan.
Adding our render toy function within that.
So now we're just taking the data that comes back from the server and we're just passing it straight to render toy, which is adding it to the HTML. So let's see what that looks like. What's that Jesse here? Oh, I've done this lab before. Ooh, who knows what these images are? Let's find out. Cool. So this is what it looks like now. I'm going to create toy. That should have gone to the server and come back. And there's Jesse. Oh, good. It's Jesse. Great. And if we look at our data, there she is. Awesome. That satisfies that thing, I think. Zen, yeah.
Just a question. Is there a way, well, I don't know if it's part of the outline of what it's asking us to do, but is there a way to like kind of clear out? So like when you add that new toy, it seems to leave what you typed in at the top. How do you clear that out?
Yeah, we can do a reset. So we've grabbed our new toy data already, and we can put this here. We can put it at the end of the function. Let's put it at the end just to be safe. We have the form, and we can just say reset the form. And that will, when we type stuff in, that'll clear it out when we're done. So basically, it's a reset is a method or a function that lives on a form, and we can just call reset on it. It'll clear everything out.
Nice. Thank you.
We can also go through and manually set each of the fields to an empty string. That'll do the same thing. Reset is just faster. Megan, yeah.
I'm just getting some weird error messages, but maybe we can go through that at the end, like once we've gotten through the whole
Sure.
lab. Thank you.
What are the errors, real quick?
I'm targeting that name and image value, but I'm just getting that it's undefined, even though looks like it should be targeted.
Go through and console log out each bit, like log out the form, log out the target, log out the form element and all that. So just kind of like work your way back to see that you're getting what you think you're getting.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Awesome. This I think satisfies the first 2 bits. Add new toy. We did it. Great. What questions do we have up to this point? I'm gonna go in here and get rid of some of that junk data. Nope, it's still there. I need to restart the server probably. Always have to restart the server. There we go. Cool. Any questions about adding a new toy here?
No, but how did you restart the server?
I went into the terminal. I hit Control C to stop it, and then I just started it again. There might be a way to, like, will R restart it? Nope. S? Nope. R? Nope. Yeah. Control Cing it and starting it again. We'll do that. I thought it picked up changes automatically, but I guess it doesn't. Rex, I'm gonna.
I just lost all my toys.
Oh no. Fix my Rex image here. Cool. There we go. There we go. Did you lose all your toys from your database?
No, just off the page. I'm trying to duplicate your code and I commented it out mine. I know mine's working, so I might just stick with mine.
Yeah, for sure.
Where did that Rex image come from? I can't find one that.
Oh, I just Googled Toy Story Rex and then picked the first image again.
I tried that. I couldn't find a good one that looked good.
Awesome, cool. So the tricky part here, there are a couple of ways to do the like button. Let's take a look at what we are asked to do. Increase the toy's likes. So when a user clicks on a toy's like button, 2 things should happen. We're going to create a patch request and send it to the server. And the URL is going to be slightly different here because we need to send it the ID. If the patch is successful, the toys count will be updated without reloading the page. Great. So this is what our data that we're going to send over is going to look like. So we just need to send over an object that has the new number of likes. Does it say anything in here about update the toys card in the DOM based on the response? Okay, yeah. So there are a few ways to do this, and I have some opinions about which way is which way is good. But cool. First, let's start off by adding our buttons. So each toy needs its own button event listener here, right? So where do you think would be a good place to add that? Anyone?
Where you created the button?
Yeah, where I created the button. And here, so this is some interesting stuff here. The button is ID, toy ID. I don't really like that much. So there's a couple ways we could attach that to the button. We could stop adding HTML here and then create the button manually. I kind of like that way. I think I like that way. We could also, after we put it on there, we could search for the ID and add it there. That's also a good way. Which way is better? No, I think I'm gonna do it the search way. No, I'm gonna do it the. I'm so indecisive. I'm gonna do it the button way. So I'm going to here. I'm going to create a new element, like button. Button. I'm going to add a class to it. And btn. I'll add the ID to it. And the text content, yeah. Yes. And then I need to append it to the toy card. Great. Let's see if that works or I broke everything. Looks like it still works. Cool. And now we see why I did it with inner HTML instead of adding each one. If I was going to add each one, I would probably write a little function that did this automatically for me. But yeah, so this way is fine. Again, we could also, after we add it, search for that ID and append it to that ID, but this is fine too. There's many ways to do it. Cool. So now that there's a button, now I can add my event listener to the button. And what I was saying about small functions, this one is kind of getting a little bit long, I think. I don't really like it that long, but I'll live with it for now. I have my click listener, and I'm going to need the ID. So if I just pass a function to it, it's only going to pass the event, which I really don't care about. So I'm actually going to write a little arrow function and give it a function. So handle add like, and I'm going to pass it let's just pass it the toy. How about that? Which means I need to write that function. And that function is not going to take the event because I'm not passing it the event here. I'm telling the event listener, when you get clicked, run this function here. And this function is going to ignore the event. And it's just going to call handle add like with the toy data that we're getting here. So I'm just going to call it toy there. Yeah, it's on.
Hey, is it possible we could go through the search by ID sort of like method as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Cool. So if we have our button like we had before, so button, what was it? Class equals like button ID equals toy ID, and put that in quotes for now. Do I still have that in there? Yeah, I do. Cool. So let's comment this part out and comment this off for now. So let's make sure that our button is back where it was before. Great. So this has an ID. This ID is unique. And if we look at our HTML, we can see that ID 2. That's not a super useful ID, I don't think. I'm going to call it toy 2. So hopefully that will change to toy 2. Cool. Toy 1, toy 2. Great. So now that those are on the page, I can select for that. So I can say const like button equals document element by ID. and I can say is going to be it's going to be toy. I just need to match this. And then I can add my listener to that. Let me add a console log to the listener just to make sure that listener works. So if I click that, I expect to see the information for Buzz Lightyear, and there it is. Great. So this way, we're adding it with the ID here. I'm just selecting it by the ID. This way, I'm creating the button from scratch and adding the listener to that created button. And you know what? This looks nicer, so let's do it this way.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I was going to say this way was a lot simpler.
In the real world, I would probably write a function to create these and then have it return the thing and add it there, but this totally works too. Cool. Yeah, thanks for asking that. Again, JavaScript, many ways to do things. Any language, Python included. There's plenty of ways to do things. It's just a matter of taste. And again, like I probably would, you heard me complaining about how big that function was getting. I probably would have gone back and done this eventually once I got mad enough about it. Cool. Other questions before we start playing with that like?
Just on this, my event handler is pretty generic, and then it's just when you create the button, I'm just finding it by the like button, but then I'm passing the ID and likes on the click. Is that a possibility? Can we do it that way?
Can you say a little bit more about that? I'm not sure I understand.
I guess never mind. I think I understand what I did wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Are you saying you're just like passing the?
Yeah, right there. I'm just passing toy.id and toy.likes.
Yeah, and I'm just passing the entire toy object because that
contains
both of those there.
Yeah, that's what I'm realizing is that, but I guess it doesn't really matter because it's just you're passing the whole data set, and I'm just saying take those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my question really is whether or not you need to, when you're attaching the handler, whether or not you have to find that exact button.
Yeah. So yeah, when you're attaching the handler, you're attaching it to that button, that exact button.
Yeah.
When you're calling the handler, you're also going to have to figure out which ID this is doing, right? Yeah, interesting. So let's do the patch first, and then we'll talk a little bit about different ways to update it on the page.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. So we know we're getting that data. Great. Oh yeah, Kimberly, go for it.
Okay, so I manually built my button because I can't get the HTML to work. And so I've got toylike.addEventListener click, and then I've got my function add likes to toy, and then under there I've got function add likes to toy, and I'm calling toy, and I'm trying to console log toy, and it won't console log.
It won't console log at all?
No.
So you're just passing the function like this?
Yes.
And it's not console logging anything?
Nope.
I'm skeptical for starters. But I would say start debugging it by making sure you've got the right thing here.
Okay.
And then go from there. Because if it's doing that, this is going to log out. It's going to log out the event because that's what it's getting there. But yeah, if you've got an event handler like that and you're console logging, it should run when it gets clicked. Make sure you're adding it to the thing that you think you're adding it to.
Okay.
But yeah, and yeah, play with it. And if you can't get it working, then we'll come back around to it. Cool.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, let's just do the patch first, then we'll talk about the data management stuff. Awesome. Let's do our fetch. We're gonna do it. So we need to do it to our toy API, but we need to do it in a slightly different way, right? We need to hit that API, but we need to give it the ID in that API. So we can't just call the API raw. So we're going to need to use a little template literal. We're going to put the toy API there, and we're going to put the toy ID here. So actually, before we do that, let me just console log this for you. So this is the URL that we're hitting. And let's see what that looks like for each toy. So we're hitting the URL /2, URL /1, and so on. So when you do a patch or delete, generally you need to include the ID in the URL for that. That's what we're doing here. So we're gonna do that fetch, and we need to pass options. We're gonna pass the headers. We're gonna tell it it's a patch. And we need to pass it the data that we're updating. And that looks like this. Likes, and then the number of new likes, which is going to be the current likes +1. So our body is going to be JSON stringify, and it's going to be likes, and the new number of likes, which is going to be toy.likes +1. Fantastic. So yeah, I got some squigglies here. What's going on? Comment. Always believe the red squigglies. Great. So Woody's got 5 likes. I'm gonna hit like here. We're not seeing anything happen. I'm gonna hit like again. Nothing happening. I'm gonna look at my data. Hey, Woody's got some likes. Nice. Okay, so it is hitting it. But oh, look at that. If I hit it again, it's still 6. And that's because we're not updating the toy here, are we? So let's do something when it returns. I should make a shortcut for this. So here, I'm just going to have a little function. And this function is going to say, so I still have the toy. I think I'm just going to update it here. In fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say likes, so I can just do this. Right. So this way, if we decide later on, oh, it should go up by 2 each time, we can just do it like that. Cool. So is this going to work? Maybe. Let's find out. So Woody has 6 likes. He has 6 likes in the data. Let's hit likes. Great. Nothing changed here. Nothing changed here. In the data, he's got 7 likes. Okay, so it should be, we hit it again. Nothing's updating on the page. We hit refresh here. Hey, we've got more likes. So it's updating the data on the likes. How is that even working? Great question, me. Yeah, Azani.
Yeah, the first thought that came to mind here was like, do you still have to like append the new likes to the page?
Yeah, and we'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about how the data is actually changing. So this is an object. Toy is an object. We are the only place we're getting it is here. We're getting the list of objects back. We're passing each object here to here. and we're passing that object here to here, and then we're just futzing with the insides of it here. Remember that objects and arrays are reference types, meaning that when we are passing toy to a function or any object or list to a function, we are not passing the actual list. We are passing the location of that list. So if this is like, oh, this is a block of houses, and render toy, this is rendering number 1 Main Street. So we can pass the address number 1 Main Street here. When we change the number of trophies in the trophy case inside that house, it's going to affect it no matter where we're talking about the house. So anytime you change the contents of an object or list, that's going to be the same no matter where it is. And that means that when we update this here, toy.likes is still going to be incremented next time we call handle add like, because we're still talking about the same toy. That's a little bit confusing, but that's how objects work. Cool. So the question now becomes, how do we put it on the page? And Azani, did you have thoughts about that or just questions?
Yeah, I was actually gonna. So now that you said that, I think I was able to follow what you just said, because basically the toy that's on line 39 is still the original toy.
Yep.
It's not the toy with new likes. So we need to define that somewhere.
Yeah, it's the original toy with those likes.
Right.
So we have our data part taken care of in whatever respect here. Now we need to update it on the page. So what are some strategies here? We have, oh, and I just thought of a worse third way that we'll probably try first. Oh, I hate it already. So we have this card. Oh, actually, that's not gonna, okay. Oh God, yeah. I have some really bad ideas. I would like to hear some ways that you have done it, or some ideas you have how to update this likes on the page. Yeah, Eileen.
So I built my increase likes function, or actually I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, I don't know how to talk through this. I realized. Oh, I actually can't screen share while
Let me turn it on if I can. You should be able to share the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting an error message.
You can't do that while you're sharing yours.
Oh, yeah. Let me stop sharing. There we go. Now go for it.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, and I guess the way that I was doing the updating, I was kind of doing it in the order that made more intuitive sense to me. So like I was thinking through each step, like, okay, I need to increase the actual like likes that I'm working with, and then the DOM, and then the server.
Yeah.
So, and I was working off of the videos that that X had uploaded. So
yeah.
I think it looks a little different from your setup. So I hope this isn't confusing anyone, but this made it make more sense to me. Yeah. And then, so once that, like what you were doing within that arrow function, I have it here. And then because this is all built within my original create or add new toy function, I still have access to that toy card. So I can select it or select the P within it here and then change it.
Yeah, cool. So a couple of comments. First off, it's asking us to update the likes on the page after it comes back successfully.
Oh, okay. I missed that then.
So, but that's fine. We can probably figure out a way to do that. Second part is, this is a little bit brittle. because again, if we are working on we're engineers, we're working on our JavaScript tooling away there. The whoever's working on the HTML decides that they did some A/B testing, and instead of it being likes whatever, it's going to say toy likes, or it's going to have something like that. So you're changing the text content along with the data here, which is a problem. We would like to just change that number somehow.
Okay, I will bow out then. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and this is I think this is kind of like stuff I kind of talked about in a different thing, but it's not really talked about in the material that much. Yeah, so let me go back and share again and see what we got here. Cool, yeah. So yeah, and so the way that you did it is good. If it works, that's great. So here are some ways we can think about doing it here. So the problem with my code here is that by the time we get down here to doing the fetch and everything, we don't have a handle on the element anymore. We've lost track of where that is. A bad way to do it that I just literally thought of would be to, since we do have the toy ID, we could search for this. We could search for the button and then get like the parent and then go to the likes and then do that. Oh, and in fact, yeah, look, it says this likes instead of likes : Interesting. Cool. So how can I keep my presentation of that data in sync with the data that I have? And right now, the hold I have on the data, even though like I can still update the toy and stuff, is a little bit tenuous, because if I don't have like, if I'm out of the realm of my click listeners or whatever, that data is just barely holding on. So I'm going to talk about how to manage that after we answer some questions here. I think, did David have a hand up?
I did, because I did the the bad way, but I think I stumbled into it in a way that the data seems to be, I checked it because I was like, wait a second, this doesn't seem like it's supposed to work. And I think I just stumbled into everything updating properly. So I don't.
Yeah, and again, if it works, great. If you do the code challenge that way, you will pass. No problem at all.
Okay, I'll let you finish, and then maybe I'll just see what bubbles up.
Yeah,
so
cool. Eileen, did you have another?
Oh no, sorry, I just didn't know where.
Cool. Cool. So we could kind of massage this around and get to the point where like I could, if I'm taking the event here, I could pass the event along with it here, take both of them, and then do e-target and so on here, and then use that to like go up and change the inner HTML of the text and all that. Looks like a lot of you have already done it that way, so I'd like to talk about a different way to do it. And I've kind of talked about this way in other places, but let's talk about it again here. So when I'm rendering toys, I am taking my data and just passing it straight to render toy. What I would like to do, this is a pretty minimal little application here. If we wanted to add more stuff in the future or make it more flexible for someone else to add more stuff in the future, I would like to hang on to that data outside of the DOM. Because right now, aside from a couple things that are kind of held onto with event listeners, all the data is basically stored on the page, which is a bad place to store data. So I am going to create a place to store our data here. And I think that's just going to be a list of all the toys that is global. In fact, let me add it up here. Am I using toy list anywhere else? Toy list. Nope. Great. I don't want to do that. Great. So I'm going to say let toy list. And just to sort of cement in my brain that it's an actual list, I'm just going to set it to an empty array. Cool. So when I come back from my fetch here, instead of just rendering toys directly, and this seems like an extra step, I'm just going to make a little function here that takes, come on, fingers. It's going to take the toys, and I'm going to run a little function. I'm going to set the toy list to toys, and then I'll render toys from that list. I could also just render from toys, but just for my own sake, I'm going to do that. Cool. So we didn't change the way anything worked, really. Everything should work the same. Great. So what changed? What changed is that now, no matter what happens in the rest of the code, we have a definitive list 100%. Toy list is going to be the data that came back from the server. Great. Cool. So, and you will hear this called state sometimes, and you'll especially hear it called state in phase 2. If I wanted to call it toy list state, that would not be bad. I'm just going to call it toy list here, but you will definitely hear it called state sometimes. Cool. So what does this let us do? This lets us say at any time when I render toys from that list, because I'm clearing out the HTML, no matter when I call render toys on that list, it's going to render out an accurate representation of the data, no matter what the data is. So now that I have that toy list hanging out here, down here, I've increased the likes of my toys. And again, since this is a reference type here, it's actually going to update the likes in the toy in this list because that data lives up there. And now, since I have this, I'm going to just change. I'm not going to change. I'm going to add one thing. I'm going to say, so I've updated the likes in the data. So this means in the toy list, that data has changed. And now I could just render out that list again. So let's make sure I didn't break anything here. Looks like everything's okay. I'm going to click like. So when I click like, it's going to call this event listener with the toy. It's going to pass a reference to that object in. I'm going to figure out what the new likes is. I'm going to make my fetch. That's going to patch the server, and it's going to send the new likes. If it comes back successfully, I'm going to set the likes in the toy in our data that's in our list to the new likes and just render the whole list again. And it seems like a lot of work to render out the entire list just to change one little thing. You will not even see a flicker when it happens. Let's see if I'm lying or not. Click the like button. Hey, look at that. Like. And so every time I click that button, it's rendering out the entire whole list again. JavaScript is relatively fast these days. I probably would not have written this code 20 years ago or 25 years ago, but this is totally acceptable here. And more importantly, what we see on the page accurately represents what our data looks like. So we can always be sure that no matter what the page looks like, it's going to sync up with our data. And so if we need to use our data in some other way in our application, that will match up. So in general, a good practice and my preference is always to change the data. And then when data has changed, then update your page or your view. And try not to grab information from the view and change that. Eileen, yeah.
Yeah, I'm completely lost after I stopped sharing my screen. I couldn't keep up with what you're doing. If you
Yeah.
could just like redo it slower or walk through it again.
Yeah.
I'm not totally getting.
Yeah, so the main thing that I changed was that instead of passing the toys that I get back from the server directly to render toys, I'm taking a stop here. I have a global variable that is going to contain that data. And so when it comes back from the initial fetch, I'm going to just assign that data to that global list there. And then I'm going to, instead of rendering toys directly from the data I got back from the server, I'm going to render toys on this global list here. It's the same data, it's just living one level up, basically. And then here, when I make the patch, I'm going to make the patch. When the patch comes back successfully, I'm going to update the data on that toy, which, since it's a reference type, updates the data in the main list. And then I'm just going to render that whole entire list out again. So when I render it, this is why I'm clearing it out. And then it's going to render the whole thing. If I didn't have this here, this is what it would look like. Here's the list here. Toys go here, blah, blah, blah. And so if I hit like here, it's going to add everyone else on there again. So what I would like to do is clear out that entire list before I add anything to it. And so this way I'm guaranteed that when I render out the global list that I've saved, it's going to accurately represent what the data looks like. Does that help a little bit, or is that more confusing?
I probably just have to review it again. It's just throwing me off.
Yeah, it's just the main difference is instead of passing it directly to our renderer, we're just basically saving a reference to it in the global and then using that. And that just lets us be more flexible with the way we play the data.
Okay, yeah, but sorry, I guess to continue that thread though, can you walk through the function that's like it makes sense that you're storing the array globally to access it with your other function, but if you could walk through that other function too.
This one?
Yeah, I know you just did. I just
yeah, no problem. So the tricky bit here is when I'm adding the event listener, I'm passing the toy object to that listener instead of the event. We don't use the event at all. And so since I'm passing a reference to that listener, it's still talking about the toy data that lives in this big list. So I'm passing the toy data here. I'm getting my new number of likes based on what the current likes are. I'm doing my patch, updating the database with that. When it comes back, I'm basically just going to say, hey, toy, and this toy is the same toy that was passed here, which is the same toy that was passed here, which was the same toy that was in the list in here, which is this list. So this goes all the way back up. And I just say, set the likes to the new number. And then once that global list is updated, just re-render the whole thing.
Okay.
That help a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll just go through it on my own time though. Thank you.
One a little exercise I would do in person, which is more difficult to do here, is kind of have so our list here, our toy list, is like a big sheet of paper. It says toy list at the top, and then we have a bunch of post-its that will stick to that has the data for each one. So we can move that toy list around and all the data comes with it. When we pass that post-it to render toy here, we're saying, cool, when you get clicked, send that post-it along to the handle like there. And then in here, update, cross out the old likes on the post-it and update it. And it's still on the big piece of paper. So then we're just saying, hey, when we've changed that, whatever's on the paper, put on the page. And so we're always kind of passing around a reference to that data. I don't know. It's hard to describe without the visual, but yeah, play with it, keep messing around with it, and maybe it'll make sense. And if it doesn't, do it the other way, and that'll work just fine too. David, yeah.
So if you're going to extend that analogy to what's happening on the server, if you got a big poster board with all the post-its, what's happening on the server at that point? Or is that the...
Yeah, so the server is basically taking a snapshot of that, right? It is it's an offsite backup of what that is. So our post-it is just what we're hanging on to on the page. When we close this page, we throw away that post-it. But when we say, hey, guy over at the whiteboard, write down all the stuff I'm going to tell you from my piece of paper, and someone else over there writes all the stuff on the whiteboard. And so the next time we come up with a blank piece of paper, we can say, hey, guy at the whiteboard, tell us what you got. And we'll make all our post-its again from that.
And is this just keeping the reference to it in the JavaScript as opposed to pulling it off of the server? Is it just more nimble that way? Or
yeah, exactly. So another way we could do it that is less performant, I guess. So once we update stuff on the server here, the server has the correct data, right? Instead of doing this here, we could make another get. We can make another fetch from the server and say, okay, server, now that we've told you what the new stuff is, you tell us what you got. And then we re-render the stuff we get back from them. But that requires another trip to the server and back. So this is just kind of like a scratch pad for that almost.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, and I see Azani, you say in chat, you think of it more as passing a copy of the data instead of the data itself. It's actually, so if you were passing a copy, when you updated the toy legs here, it wouldn't update the original. So there's actually, this is a passing by reference instead of passing by value. So making a copy is basically passing by value, or saying, here are the values that I get, but like I don't care about what you do with them. So this is passing that thing by reference, which is saying, here is my piece of paper with the data on it. If you change something on my piece of paper, it will change the actual data. So it is actually sending the actual data over, not just a copy of it. Hannah, yeah.
Okay. I was just kind of like playing with my code, and then I'm just wondering, for the line 39 and 30, I didn't use the inner HTML, but I entered with the text content. So I was just wondering, how would you no, I'm just, I don't know, because when I was just trying to follow along for the add the like, would you, I'm just wondering, would you put the line 39 and 30 after appending or before appending the card?
Great question. Yeah, so whether you put the append after you do the setting the content and stuff, it doesn't matter, because once you create it, that's another object, right? So you can either, again, like pretend your div is a post-it note. So you're saying, cool, create a post-it note for me. And it doesn't matter whether I write something on the post-it note and put it on the board, or put it on the board and then write something on it. It's still just a reference to that chunk of data. So we can do it in any order there. Yeah, that's a great question.
Okay. Yeah, it did, because it did like when I tried to be after like appending whatever, it did the button of like button, it didn't exist.
Huh.
I don't know. Maybe I will just try to figure it and then ask you later on.
Yeah. Like my always throw console logs at it and like make sure that the thing is what
okay.
And then
Cool.
try and debug it from there. Yeah, that's a quick question though. Two others. Azani, yeah.
Yeah, so I have two quick questions. One is on line 46. Can't that just be toy API by itself, like without the brackets and the $? Because that isn't necessarily going to change at any point.
So like this.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. So what is the URL going to be if we do that?
Well, I see that the toy API there just became a string instead
Yeah.
of the actual link.
Yeah, so we need to give the value of that variable toy API, or else it'll just be TOY API.
Got it. Because fetch is usually designed to take a string.
Yeah, and it is taking a string here. It's just a templated string. So
Right.
a string with the value of that and a slash and the value of that.
Got it. Okay, and the last other quick thing, you talked about state. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. So the toy list itself, you would refer to that as the state or
Yeah,
as
I would call it the state of this, and that's actually a real thing in React. We're just kind of simulating it here.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, and again, it is one way to do it. It's the way that I kind of prefer. But if you do it different ways, it's totally legit.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I think Zan was up next.
Yeah, so I actually have a question about like the let toy list. How does that connect to the toy API? I think that's just like the part that I'm not really understanding.
Mhm.
Like, is it updating the API or is the API being updated by the list? Like,
Can
I don't
you?
know. I think I'm getting a little confused right there.
Yeah. Ask me more questions. I think I kind of get what you're asking at, but I want to make sure I'm asking. I want to make sure I'm answering your actual question instead of what I think your question is.
Okay, so I see that you have the toy list,
Mhm.
and and it's an empty list because
Because we don't have anything in it yet. We could just
right.
have that. This is more for me, just as a reminder, like, oh, that's going to be an array.
Okay, but I guess I'm just not understanding how it connects to the API.
Yeah. So here on 15, this is where we're doing our initial get. So we're getting our the URL for our API. We're doing our fetch. It's getting our response. And then here's toys here is this list that we're getting back from the API, right? And so here we're just setting what was blank to this list here. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but so then like when you like something, does it update the API and then that list updates the the DOM or
Yeah. So we are when we're adding a like, we are
uh-huh.
our patch, which means we're updating through the API first. So
Okay.
first off, we're changing the data, and we're doing that because maybe the server's down, maybe there's a problem and it doesn't work. We don't want to update our page or our data until we make sure that the database is updated correctly, the API is updated correctly. So we
Right.
get request, we change the API, and so at this point here, the API has been changed. The data behind the API has been changed, and so now that it has come back correctly, and we don't even need this part because we don't care what's coming back. We just care that it is coming back. So when it comes back correctly, it has updated stuff the way we want. Then we're going to say, okay, cool. We know it worked on the server. Now we're going to update our local data. And now we're going to update the page to reflect that data.
Okay, and then when it's like the render toys toy list, like even though it updated the API, it's going to update every single toy.
Yep.
Just to make sure that we have the correct data like when it comes back.
Yeah.
Okay, it's clicking a little bit better. I just was like, how does this connect?
Yeah.
Was not getting that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so the neat part with this is like we could come on, buddy. We could not make that API call at all, right? We could just update the list. And so let me make sure I'm just not. So this would, oh, look, we're updating likes here on the front end, but we're not changing the back end at all because we're not making that fetch. So the place where that fetch comes in is that we're changing stuff on the data side first, on the API side first, And then when it comes back, we're like, okay, cool. Now we can do the thing that we actually wanted to do, which was update it on the page.
I see. And then like when you took that patch away, did it update the HTML or no?
Yeah, it did. So boom, boom, great. So yeah, so here without doing a server call, right now we're just saying, cool, the look at the likes for the toy, add one, that's the new number of likes. We're going to set the likes in our data in our main list here to the new likes, which is likes plus one. And now that we have updated our main list, our full data set, now we're going to render up the HTML page to make sure that the HTML page shows what is in our data. Is that helping it a little bit?
Yeah, can you show it to me on the like if you go back to the page
Yeah.
and then if you look at the
So here,
30 likes, no updated likes there.
so Woody's got 9 here and 9 there. So if I click a bunch of times here, this is just updating our toy list here.
Uh-huh.
And so if I click some more, that'll update that there. But it is not updating it on the server.
Oh, and so then when you refresh the page.
Yeah, and so when I refresh the page, it's going to go to the server, and we're going to go back to what it said before.
That made it click so much more. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so this only exists on the page. When we reload the page or close it, it goes away. Cool, great question though. Yeah, super good stuff. Yeah, and so like if I'm doing something similar by myself and I'm not using a framework or whatever, if I'm doing this in JavaScript, I will often start off with this because I have this model burned into my brain where like I have some data and I want to look at that data somehow on a web page. And I just want that to be a one-way thing. I want to update my data, and then when the data is updated, I want the page to update as well. I never want to do something to the page and then try to scrape that data back out into my global stuff. So I'll usually start with something like this, just to kind of be like, cool, this is what I'm working with, and this is what I want to look like.
So would you say that would be asynchronous code then?
Not necessarily, because we could do the same thing like we saw without any of the server stuff.
Okay.
We could have everything update stuff just with the data. And since we're not making server calls, it's going to be all synchronous. But it's the server stuff that's the asynchronous part.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, this is the same kind of pattern you'll see in React, where there's like a state, and when you change the state, it automatically updates the page for you, which is the nice part of React. This is just like basically we have to do 1 or 2 extra steps manually to do what React will do for us. Cool. Megan, yeah.
I'm still running into that error message from like, an hour ago.
Yeah.
And I've console logged everything and I just cannot figure out what is going on. So
Cool. You want to take a look at it? We stop sharing.
If we could, I mean, unless, other people have like general questions, I don't want to,
Yeah, let's throw it up. We're here.
All right. I have just been like trying everything I can think of. So like, I'm getting the error message when I click into here, and then I go to like click anything within that form. And I
have an idea.
Yes,
already.
Please.
Show me where you're setting the event listener on your form.
Yeah. I can show you the actual. Let's see. There we go. I'm setting it on my add toy form. That element.
Can you read that event listener to me?
Yeah. Sorry, I lost it. 1 second. Okay. I'm adding a click. Oh, so it's happening whenever I click anything?
Anytime.
Should it be submit?
Yeah. So that's anytime you click the form anywhere on the form, it's going to do that thing.
Oh, okay. Let me try that just to see if that helped with. Okay, that's great.
Hey, that looks good.
Okay. So then I pass it to handle submit. And then should I just try something? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Ah! Oh my God, I've been working on this for like,
It's so easy to overlook stuff like that because you're like, I know I'm doing it. Yeah, and that is like, I'm sure you've actually heard me do that out loud. Like, I will literally read the code out loud, and when I get to that, oh, add event handler, click, motherfucker, god damn it. That,
okay.
yeah, so
So then,
your code
thank
out
you.
loud to yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. But then next question. So I've passed in my two functions. One is to add the new toy to the form. Oh wait, is it? Oh my God, it's there. Ah, okay.
No way, I added a Furby too.
Did you really? I was like, am I gonna do a gremlin or a Furby? I went for Furby.
Nice.
Okay, and it reset the form like it should have, and
And can we look at the code again real quick?
yeah.
So it looks like you are rendering the toy and doing this post separately.
Yeah, because I have the add new toy function separate. I don't know.
Yeah, so even if the post doesn't work, it's going to add the new toy to the page, right?
Okay.
So we want to make sure that we're doing the render of the toy after the post comes back.
Render the toy.
Yeah.
So just literally like, well, sorry, I don't really know. Do you mean like literally doing that or?
So you'll need to do it in the then after it comes back.
Mm.
But fortunately, you're passing that toy into there, so you can.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you're saying render my function down here.
Yep. Perfect.
One toy.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Let's see if that works.
And then delete that.
Yeah. Just delete it. Go for it.
Okay. Ugh. Add another. Oops.
Yeah. I hate that button.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
There you go.
Oh, did it? Okay, so it still worked, basically. Okay. Then, oh, there's two Furbies. Wow. Why did that only show up after page refresh? Is that a thing I can?
Maybe it didn't render after it came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got the general idea. Play with that, and it'll go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, reading your code out loud to yourself super helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so that is one way to do it. There are plenty of ways to do it. I encourage playing around with it and trying different ways. Especially as you get into your project next week, and you make things more complex instead of just like the one page doing one thing, you'll see as you refactor, like, oh, I'm keeping my data this way, or I'm rendering it this way, or I'm thinking about this way. But now I have another piece to that. How do I need to change the stuff that I already wrote to make that happen? And it's really tempting to do a lot of contortions with new things instead of going back and tidying up the stuff that you've already written. So never be afraid to mess with your old code. It's just code, so you can move it around, delete it, change it as much as you like. Yeah, Kimberly.
Can I share my screen real quick? I was trying to follow along. I have terribly broken my code. I can't even get anything on the page except a blank card now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have no idea where I went wrong. I'm like literally looking at this trying to figure it out. And just to kind of give you an idea, this is what I'm getting.
Looks like you got an error there.
Yeah.
What's that error? So that you're getting nothing because it's stopping when it hits that error.
Right.
So
Okay.
what toy is not defined on line 48.
Okay.
There's toy name. So where are you getting toy from there?
Oh, okay, that may be where I'm. Because
So what are you passing into render toy?
toys,
Uh-huh.
so it should be toy.
Probably, yeah. Since you're only passing a toy in there, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's see if that did it.
Different error, that's good.
Yeah, it's getting closer.
Cool. Yeah, so basically, my advice is believe your errors. If it says something's undefined, it probably is. Just go to
Okay.
the line and see what it is, and then try and find out where you think you're defining it, and make sure you're defining it.
Okay. All right. I'll keep working on it.
Yeah. Cool. That's been a lot of stuff. Anything else? Yeah. Eileen.
Yeah, this isn't related to Toy Tale, but and I pinged it in the chat, but I figured since we're live, was wondering if, because I know some other people had trouble with Object Ball, feel free to chime in. If we could do like a kind of formal walkthrough of it, that'd be great. I'm honestly still struggling with it. I don't know if
Yeah.
others are, but
I would love to. I would recommend that a bunch of y'all get together and walk through it together, because I know a bunch of people have gotten through it and have ideas about it. I think that will help both sides. That'll help both the people that need help and the people that kind of have it, but teaching or helping someone else is going to really help cement that. So I would say get together with a bunch of other people to do that first, and then tag me in when you need help.
so okay, taking volunteers. Is anybody want to?
I'll
Um,
be there. Yeah, I'll do it.
yeah, let's arrange that on Discord.
Okay,
Otherwise,
great.
yeah, yeah, great. This has been really good. Lots of amazing questions, lots of good work. Yeah, I will post this video in the usual places so you can look at it later. Yeah, any last stuff before we shut it down?
Just had a quick question about Bookliker, which was on the assignment list today. Would you say, given the time till code assessment, we should give that a shot, or maybe put that off if we need?
I would say put it. I would say like get used to this kind of stuff, because this is going to wind up. Bookliker is just exercising one small part. So if that part is something you need practice on, by all means go for it. But yeah, I think stuff like this is going to exercise what you need for sure.
And then, not to drive the point home or belabor it, but is there any other, if you were looking at a secondary or lab or something that this one might not cover, or a specific area, is there something else besides what's in this that you?
Not off the top of my head, but let me take a look. Yeah, this one's really good. The GitHub search one is pretty good. Yeah, and and a bunch of the ones in the additional practice. The Ramen Raider is already open, I guess, which it shouldn't be. But yeah, Ramen Raider is a fake code challenge, so that one will definitely reflect what we're looking at.
Thank you for addressing our collective test anxiety there.
Yeah. Hannah, yeah.
We have the after hour after the lunchtime, just in case I'm not able to solve with the pay. I mean, I'm just asking if we have after hour after the lunch.
Oh, after lunch? Yeah, I would say let's play it by ear. I need to take care of a few things after lunch. So let's say after lunch, post questions in Discord and get together in the main Zoom. And if you are super stuck, holler at me and I'll jump in when I can. Cool?
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Sweet. Cool, yeah. I don't want to keep you into lunch, so awesome work. Like I said, I'll post this in the usual places, and I will catch you at Standout if not sooner. Thanks for hanging out.